Good evening and welcome back to Untold Sports TV. Tonight we dive into the Black Sox Scandal of 1919, the story of a game fixed by greed.
(1919) October, the World Series, the greatest event in American sports. Millions of people across America huddled around their radios, children dreaming of becoming like their heroes on the field. Baseball wasn't just a game. It was faith. It was hope. But on that autumn day, 8 men made a decision. One decision that would shatter the faith of an entire nation. That would turn heroes into traitors. That would forever change American sports. This is the story of the greatest scandal in baseball history. This is the Black Sox Scandal. To understand this story, you need to understand America in 1919. World War I had just ended. People were craving normalcy. They wanted to forget about the war, and baseball gave them that. Baseball was a national religion. Every boy in America dreamed of playing baseball. Baseball players were living legends, and among all teams, one stood out: the Chicago White Sox, the best team in the league, perhaps the best team in all of baseball history. Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of the greatest hitters the world had ever seen. Career batting average of .356. Eddie Cicotte, a world-class pitcher. When he stepped onto the field, opposing teams knew they had almost no chance. The White Sox were supposed to win the World Series. Bookmakers gave odds of 5-1 in their favor, but beneath the team's greatness, rot was festering. Charles Comiskey, team owner, one of the richest men in baseball and one of the greediest. Comiskey paid his players less than any other team in the league, much less. The players who filled his stadium received pennies, $2,000, $3,000 a year. Mediocre players on other teams earned twice as much. But the greed went further. He cut corners on everything. Players played in dirty uniforms. The owner refused to pay for laundry. While other teams lived in comfort, the White Sox lived like paupers. Imagine, you're a star. Millions of people applaud you. Children want to be like you. But you can't feed your family. Your wife pinches every penny, and the owner counts his millions. Anger, resentment, humiliation. This is the perfect recipe for catastrophe. Now imagine another man, a man who saw this crack, Arnold Rothstein. Even now, more than a century later, this name sends shivers down spines. In 1919, he was the king of New York's criminal underworld, but not just an ordinary gangster. Rothstein was a genius, a cold, calculating, ruthless genius. He controlled everything: underground casinos, bookmaking operations across the city. He owned police officers. He owned politicians. If something illegal and profitable was happening in New York, Rothstein got his cut. But such men never have enough. Rothstein wanted more. He wanted to control the game itself, the World Series. And in the fall of 1919, the stars aligned perfectly: disgruntled players, a greedy owner, weak baseball leadership. This was a perfect storm. Rothstein was too smart to act directly. Instead, he used middlemen, small-time grifters, Billy Maharg and Sleepy Bill Burns. People who knew the players had access. The message was simple: what if you could earn more in 1 week than in your entire career? The sum was whispered like a spell: $100,000. In 1919, this was an unimaginable fortune. For players earning $2,000 to $3,000 a year, this was everything. This was a house. This was security. This was their children's future. All they had to do was lose, just play a little worse, miss a few balls, nothing obvious, and 8 men started listening. September 1919, a dark hotel room in Chicago. 8 men gathered together, 8 professionals, 8 fathers and husbands, 8 people who would soon enter history for the worst possible reason. Eddie Cicotte, 35 years old, the team's best pitcher. He had a reason. Comiskey promised him a bonus: $10,000 for 30 wins in the season. Cicotte won 29 games, and then Comiskey benched him, didn't give him a chance to win the 30th, because he didn't want to pay. His wife was sick. He had no savings. He felt betrayed. Chick Gandil, first base, a tough street guy, Gandil was the first to contact the gangsters. He was the organizer. For him, this was just business. Swede Risberg, shortstop, young, angry at the world. He felt Comiskey was robbing him every day. Fred McMullen, utility player. He rarely even got on the field, but he overheard the conversations and demanded his share. If you're doing this, I'm in, or I'll tell everything. Claude Lefty Williams, pitcher, a quiet man, a good man. He loved his wife more than anything. He didn't know then what price he would have to pay. Oscar Happy Felsch, center fielder, cheerful, popular. He genuinely loved baseball, but he was young and money blinded him. And then there was Joe Jackson, Shoeless Joe Jackson, a legend, an illiterate farm boy from South Carolina. His children adored him. Jackson had doubts. His wife begged him not to do it, but Gandil pressured him. With you or without you, this is happening. You can get the money or remain a fool. And Jackson nodded. And last, Buck Weaver, third base, a tragic figure. Weaver came to the meeting. He listened. He knew, but he refused the money. I won't be part of this. And he wasn't. He played every game flawlessly, honestly, but he didn't report it. He knew and stayed silent. The plan was simple. Throw the World Series to the Cincinnati Reds. Do it subtly, professionally. Money would be delivered in installments. That night, they just thought about money and about finally getting revenge on Comiskey. October 1st, 1919, a day that would forever change American sports. Redland Field, Cincinnati. The stadium is packed. 30,000 people shouting, singing, waving flags. Across America, millions huddled around their radios. This was more than a game. This was a national event. No one knew they were about to witness betrayal. Eddie Cicotte takes the field. In his pocket lies an envelope with money, $10,000, the first payment. He looks at the batter, winds up, and deliberately hits him in the back with the ball. Cincinnati's first batter falls. The crowd gasps. Somewhere in the crowd, a bookmaker receives a signal. In New York, Arnold Rothstein allows himself a smile. The deal has begun. The game turns into a nightmare for the White Sox. Errors that professionals never make. Balls slip through gloves. Throws fly wide of their targets. It looks like bad luck. But those who know baseball start to have doubts. The White Sox lose the first game, 9-1, a blowout. Game 2, Cincinnati wins again, 4-2. But Game 3, a surprise? Dickie Kerr, a young pitcher who is not part of the conspiracy, takes the mound. He doesn't know about the fix. He's just playing baseball. 3 hits for Cincinnati, that's all. The White Sox win, 3-0. Series score, 2-1. Sports writers start writing strange articles. Something's wrong with the Sox. Bookmaking operations panic. The odds collapsed. Rumors spread. It's fixed. But no one wants to believe it. Game 4. Cicotte pitches again. More strange errors. He fields a ball but throws wildly to first. Another suspicious game. Cincinnati 2-0. Series score 3-1. Game 5. Williams loses again. 3 hits for Cincinnati and a shutout. 5-0. The series score is now critical. 4-1 in favor of the Cincinnati Reds. They need just one more win. The series is best of 9, first to 5 wins. And on the field, the drama becomes even more complex. Because the gangsters cheated the players. The promised $100,000, the players received barely half. Cicotte got $10,000 instead of $20,000. Jackson got $5,000. The rest, even less. Some got nothing at all. The players are furious. They feel cheated from all sides. Comiskey won't pay. The gangsters won't pay either. And they make a decision. To hell with everyone. We're winning. Game 6, October 7th. White Sox win in extra innings. 5-4. Series score 4-2. Hope is alive. Game 7, October 8th. Eddie Cicotte takes the mound, but this time he plays for real. Dominates. 1 run, 7 hits. The White Sox win, 4-1. The series score is now 4-3. Just one game separates the teams. The stadium explodes. Fans are screaming. Maybe the White Sox will come back after all? Maybe it was just a bad start? But the night before Game 8, a man comes to Lefty Williams' hotel room, a dark figure in the hallway, a short message. Tomorrow you lose, or your wife won't live to see morning. Williams doesn't sleep all night. His wife Lyria is all he has. The only thing more important than money, more important than baseball, more important than everything. He thinks about the choice between honor and her life. An impossible choice, a choice that will break him. October 9th, Game 8, the decisive game. Williams takes the mound, his face pale as a sheet, hands shaking. Joe Jackson even hits a home run, the only one in the series. But it's too late. Cincinnati doesn't stop. Final score, 10-5. The series is over. The Cincinnati Reds are world champions, 5-3. On the field, the Reds players jump, embrace, celebrate. Their dream came true, and in the White Sox locker room, silence hangs heavy. Heavy, suffocating silence. 8 men sit, not looking at each other, each lost in their thoughts. Each understands what they've done, what they've lost. Outside, America celebrates. They don't know the truth, not yet. But truth has a habit of surfacing, always. 13 months the players lived with their secret, but the rumors didn't die, they grew. By September 1920, the pressure became unbearable. A Chicago grand jury opens an investigation, official, serious, with subpoenas and the threat of prison. Eddie Saccott breaks first. He sits before the prosecutors and tells everything. I did it for money. That's all I can say. Comiskey paid us pennies. I didn't think. I betrayed the sport. I betrayed the children who believed in me. He cries. A 36-year-old professional athlete sits and cries like a child. I'm sorry, I swear to God, I'm so sorry. After Saccott, Joe Jackson breaks. Jackson is illiterate. Lawyers frighten him. He doesn't understand half of what they're saying. He confesses, talks about the money, about the pressure, about the fear. September 28, 1920. Jackson exits the courthouse. A crowd of reporters surrounds him. Camera flashes, shouted questions. And suddenly a boy pushes through the crowd, a child, maybe 10 years old. In his hand is Jackson's baseball glove. The autograph on it already faded, his face red with tears. He looks at his hero and says words that will echo through the ages. Say it ain't so, Joe. Please, say it ain't so. Tell me it's not true, Joe. Please. Jackson stops, looks at the boy, opens his mouth, but words don't come out. What can he say? He lowers his head and walks away without looking back. This became the most famous moment in baseball history, the moment when innocence died, when America learned that heroes can betray. The trial lasts weeks, but something incredible happens, a technicality. In the state of Illinois in 1920, there was no law against conspiracy in sports. The jury returns, not guilty. The courtroom explodes with emotion. Players embrace, cry with relief. They're free. The law has released them. But they're very wrong if they think it's over. Because at this moment, Kennesaw Mountain Landis enters, baseball's first commissioner, federal judge, a man with a reputation for absolute toughness. The day after the acquittal, Landis makes a statement, short, clear, final. Regardless of the verdict of juries, no player who throws a ball game, no player who sits in conference with a bunch of crooked players and gamblers and does not promptly tell his club about it, will ever play professional baseball again. A pause. Absolute silence. 8 players from the Chicago White Sox are banned from baseball for life, forever, without the possibility of pardon. 8 men, 8 careers, ended in an instant. And Buck Weaver, tragic Weaver, who didn't take a cent, who played every game flawlessly, but he knew and stayed silent. Weaver will spend the rest of his life fighting for reinstatement. He'll write thousands of letters. I didn't take any money. I played honestly. Please give me back my game. But baseball is inflexible. Knowing and not telling is also betrayal. Weaver will die in 1956, broken, still begging for forgiveness. It will never come. 106 years have passed since that October day in 1919. Generations have been born and died. The world has changed beyond recognition. But the Black Sox scandal is still alive, still painful, because this isn't just a story about baseball. This is a story about trust, about betrayal, about the price of greed. The scandal changed American sports forever. Baseball created the position of commissioner, a powerful figure with absolute authority. The strictest rules were introduced. Players were forbidden from associating with gamblers. Every contract contained a clause about the integrity of the game. A monitoring system was created. And you know what? It worked. In 100 years, there hasn't been a single confirmed case of a fixed World Series game. Not one. But the price was enormous. 8 lives were destroyed. Completely. Eddie Cicotte died in 1969 at the age of 85. For the last 50 years, he worked in a factory. No one knew who he once was. Buck Weaver, the most tragic figure, a man who didn't take a cent, who played honestly. He fought until his last day, wrote to 8 commissioners, thousands of letters. "I'm not a traitor. Please give me back baseball." But baseball was merciless. Weaver died in 1956, broken. And then there's Joe Jackson. Shoeless Joe Jackson, career batting average of .356. In that World Series, he batted .375, better than usual. 0 errors. Statistically, he played brilliantly, but he knew he took money. Jackson returned to South Carolina, opened a small store, lived quietly. Every day, children came asking for autographs. He signed, smiled, but you could see the pain in his eyes. He died in 1951. He was 63. Until his last day, he hoped for forgiveness. It didn't happen, and it still hasn't happened. 74 years after his death, the debates continue. Every year, someone files a petition. Should Joe Jackson be in the Hall of Fame? Some say yes. He was a genius. His statistics speak for themselves. Maybe he deserves forgiveness. Others say no. He knew. He took money. Talent doesn't justify betrayal. The Hall of Fame is for heroes, not for players who sold out. The Black Sox scandal became more than a story. It became a myth, a legend. In 1989, the film Field of Dreams came out. In it, the ghost of Joe Jackson plays on a magical field. He gets a second chance. The redemption he never got in real life. Millions of people cried in theaters. This is a story about greed. On both sides, an owner who didn't pay, players who chose easy money, gangsters who exploited weakness. But it's also a story about the system, about what happens when power exploits talent. When greed meets desperation, the Black Sox scandal is a reminder about the fragility of trust. That betrayal has a price that lasts forever, that some decisions haunt you beyond the grave. 8 men, 1 decision, 106 years of shame. This is the story of how greatness turned into tragedy, how heroes became traitors, how innocence died on one autumn day in 1919. You just heard the story of the greatest betrayal in sports history, about 8 people who chose money over honor. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Write in the comments, should Joe Jackson be in the Hall of Fame? This was a channel about the darkest stories in sports. See you in the next video. Remember, every decision has consequences, and some last forever.